Hey there, folks. It's J. Angelos here on Silent Film Saturday YouTube channel. Not making a Silent Film Saturday episode. I think it's almost been like those. Anyway, I'm pleased to say that I have special guest Richard Purnell, director of 8 Hours.
Movie you haven't heard of.
Movie you haven't heard of, but I have heard of it and I've seen it, and it's quite good. Richard, how are you doing tonight?
I gotta poop. I'm sorry, what was your question? Oh, I have to poop.
Okay. Well, did I catch you at an opportune time?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'll just deal with it.
Oh, man.
But no, thank you. Yeah, I haven't been on a video on your YouTube channel.
No.
So it's exciting. We've made a few We've made a few videos together. We did a few on our neighbor channel, MovieSquad.
Yes, we have.
We've done a few on there. We reviewed a few things that came out this year. For those of you that don't know, I've did YouTube videos for like 6 years, from like 2009 to like 2016, and I kind of like stopped because I'm a lazy butthole. But I'm trying to
lazy.
Stop being a lazy butthole. But I'm trying to get back to the swing of things. So I made a short film. It's called 8 Hours. It's about a kid that can't sleep. We just finished it not that long ago. Plugging. I got to plug. Not that it matters, but I got to do it.
Yeah, that's fine.
But it comes. Hopefully it'll come out soon. It's on YouTube. It's just unlisted, and I'm sharing it with like several people and planning to do the festival circuit here in my area, maybe abroad, nice. if it does well, which I don't know, because it is still technically a student-looking film.
I mean, you know what? It was. I enjoyed it myself, and you know what? We'll see what happens with that.
All right, but there is a trailer on my YouTube channel. If you go to Channel 23, on YouTube, I'm sure Joey will be kind enough to put a link down below.
I will put a link down to that channel as well as MovieSquad. Definitely check that out, folks.
Yeah, so you can check out the trailer, hyped, hopefully get you excited. Also, the music by John Armstrong, who's a good friend of ours, is amazing. So I just
very good friend of the show. Yes.
Anyways, I'm done. So,
well, thank you.
Head plug.
No, that's totally plug away, man.
Now,
anyway, the real reason why we're here is we're not doing a Silent Film Saturday episode. Although, you know what, Richard, we really should do a Silent Film Saturday episode one of these days.
I mean, my favorite movie is a silent film.
I know.
Yeah.
But I need to rewatch Metropolis. That is his favorite.
It's my favorite movie.
Is Richard's favorite movie. So, maybe once I actually get to episode 100, because that's always been my goal. I'm like episode 90 something with these things. Maybe after episode 100, I'll review a few of them, and maybe one of them will be Metropolis, because I've been meaning to rewatch that one for the longest time.
Yeah, there was one time I thought we were going to try rewatching it, but regardless of what you heard in his Justice League review, Joey does fall asleep during some movies. Spoiler alert.
All right, I should have clarified that. Fall asleep in the theater, not in the comfort of like a couch or bed.
And it is PJs.
No, we're really here to talk about one of our favorite movie-related things, the Criterion Collection, as it says on their box, a continuing series of important classic and contemporary films. So the Criterion Collection, for those of you who are not familiar, is like a film distributor of sorts. There's all sorts of film that are in the Criterion Collection. You can have, things like Charlie Chaplin, the original Godzilla, samurai movies, French New Wave, or some of the films of, Richard, fill in the blanks of some of your Criterion titles.
I mean, this is a whole it's a restoration place / distribute. Like, the whole point of Criterion is to keep intact movies they feel deserve to be preserved.
Right.
That deserve to be preserved. That's a great... No, put that on the back of the box, Criterion. I just made that up on the spot.
If Criterion was like a bargain bin distributor...
They deserve to be preserved.
Deserve to be preserved. That would be like the dollar store Criterion.
Deserve to be preserved. But no, It's a collection that definitely loves movies and loves keeping them alive, and also they love directors. There's various directors that have a plethora of their movies in the collection. Like Stanley Kubrick, Guillermo del Toro, Terry Gilliam, Wes Anderson.
Yep.
And a few others. Fun fact. As ironic as it is to be a film nerd, I'm actually not a big Wes Anderson fan.
But luckily,
just throwing that out there.
Luckily, I won't be talking too much about Wes Anderson tonight. So
too much being the key word here.
Too much because I'll be talking about what I think could happen in 2018 for releases. But anyway, so yeah, the Criterion Collection's all sorts of stuff, and we're going to talk about a wide variety of Criterion topics. Firstly, the Criterion. I guess I would say biannual, right? That would be twice a year.
Right, it's twice a year.
Twice a year, Barnes & Noble sale. Now, Criterion has various sales on its site, sometimes called flash sales.
Because listen here, the movies themselves, like on their own, are like $30, $40.
Sometimes 50.
Typically. Sometimes 50. Typically, that's the typical price of a Criterion movie. However, because they know how expensive they are, Criterion's nice enough themselves or even through Barnes & Noble to do big sales or like 24-hour sales for 50, and it's always 50% off. So you save some money, you can get some good movies for more affordable prices.
Right.
So we utilize the crap out of that.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some years where I've purchased, I kid you not, maybe like close to 10 titles in like a sale. Like not in like one day, but like over the course of like a Barnes & Noble sale, because usually they last a month. The holiday season or like in July are like the two periods they'll do the Barnes & Noble sale. 50% off all Criterion titles, and that's very helpful if you're trying to catch up all the new releases.
True that.
So we're here to talk about the stuff that we picked up. Now, I just want to say, Richard, before this sale, did you pick up other Criterion movies this year?
Like from the last sale?
From the last sale a couple months ago, or just, in general from the last few months?
There was probably a few. Like I remember from the last sale, the ones I picked up, I got Charade was one I got because it was just on a whim, and I saw a trailer for it, and I like Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant. So, and I watched it, and it was actually a really fun time. And I saw you bought it, so I was excited. So
I actually got it. Yeah, I got it. I haven't watched it yet, but I had it for like $14 at my Suncoast. It was used, and it had the booklet and everything, so it's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it's actually a really good movie. It's really driven by the dialogue. It's a very dialogue-driven movie. Like, just some of the lines and the delivery is just like incredibly stellar, and I'm like I was just enchanted the whole time. I was laughing too. It's actually quite funny at times.
Right.
It's like the movie itself is kind of like a thriller, like kind of type deal, but it's very very funny and it's very witty. So I would definitely recommend it. And there's a big mystery surrounding Grant's character as to who the heck he is, and so that's a fun thing to find out. Let's see, I got based on your recommendation, I did go Lone Wolf and Cub.
Ooh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Still need to finish. I watched the first two movies and half of the third one, but then other stuff was going on, and so now hopefully I'll jump back into that sometime soon.
Yeah, let me know when you get to which one. I think did I say 4? I don't know. I like the even number Lone Wolves.
You do. I remember you saying that. But like they're just fun, like crazy, violent samurai movies that are just kind of whacked out at the same time.
They're just 90 minutes, really short.
I got Don't Look Now, which I got per recommendation from one of the Criterion Collection videos, where like Criterion Collection's YouTube channel, which we can also put in the description. Mm-hmm. They do these closet visits where they bring in actors, directors, or writers, various people to come into the Criterion closet and talk about a few titles that influenced them from the Criterion. And there's a video where one of my favorite directors, Edgar Wright, goes into the closet and picks out some Criterion titles, and one of them was Don't Look Now. And like he talks about how the film kind of it's a horror film, but it talks about like foreshadowing and its use of foreshadowing, and how it kind of like in Edgar Wright's own movies, how the opening of the movie literally spoils everything that's going to happen without you actually knowing it. And as the movie plays out, it's actually kind of cool, and it's from a director who I've seen a few of his other movies, and so I wanted to check it out, and I did, and it was pretty good, and so there's that.
Nice.
What else did I get? Videodrome. I got that because I gotta get me some cool crazy Cronenberg in my collection.
Sure.
From the last sale. But what about you?
I'm trying to think of all the ones I got this year. I picked up His Girl Friday, which is a really great 2-disc Blu-ray. Not just because the movie is great, but also because it comes with the original. You see, His Girl Friday, you don't know, is a Cary Grant. Cary Grant, Rosalind Russell, and you've seen The Wolfman. You've seen Rosemary's Baby, right?
Yeah, yes, I have.
Remember the crazy doctor from Rosemary's Baby? And
yes.
He's one. I think he was one of the investigator guys from The Wolfman. Ralph Bellamy's that's Ralph Bellamy, and he's in this too. It's like a newspaper comedy of sorts. A lot of good dialogue, but that was actually a gender flipped version of a play called The Front Page, which was made into a movie in the early 30s. And on 4K restoration of the pre-release cut, which was the preferred version of the director.
Huh.
That's one of my favorite things with some of the Criterion movies is sometimes they'll include a movie, bonus feature. So the Alfred Hitchcock Train. It was one of his British movies, and they have these characters called Charters and Caldecott. And they have another movie with these characters on the disc, just because.
So why not?
Because why not? And Charters and Caldecott is just amusing, so you can't get enough of them.
What?
So there's that.
And then something like, say, with Godzilla, you got the original Godzilla, and then you have the American version.
Exactly.
The American, that's not a word, American of Godzilla.
The English version, which actually has two by David Callett. And he makes a great case for both movies. But continuing with ones I picked up this year, I got there, which was made by Hal Ashby and Peter Sellers. I thought that was pretty okay. Not my. I came to this one because of Hal Ashby's Harold and Maude, which came to the collection a few years ago, and that was a very good movie. I also got Hitchcock. I'm going to get into more Hitchcock as the evening goes on. I picked up The Lodger, which was one of his first films, and it's actually his third movie, but it's the first one people generally consider to be a Hitchcockian movie.
Nice.
It's got all the elements like The Wrong Man, Blonde, and all the elements that you see in a Hitchcock movie,
typical Hitchcock tropes.
Creepy staircase, which made a Psycho, all of that stuff. Then I got Othello with Orson Welles, and that comes with two versions.
This is your ultimate movie. I don't know if you guys know this, but Joey has been waiting because he's a big Orson Welles fan. He even does an Orson Welles impression, and and he's been waiting for this Othello Blu-ray.
They kept delaying forever. It came out in August and September, and then came out in October. I think finally. I didn't even wait for the sale. I just picked it up.
Just dang it, I got to get it.
Sometimes I'm like that because with certain releases, I'm they're worth the extra couple bucks, in my opinion.
True.
So I got that. And that has two versions of film, and I believe they're both 4K restorations. They got a lot of really nice supplements on both discs.
So, I mean, you just listen to the variety of titles about comedies. We're talking about thrillers. We're talking about, random Orson Welles movie. just that's what's kind of cool about the Criterion Collection.
Movies,
It's just that's something that kind of draws me to it, or at least what initially drew me to it. Because you look at the Criterion Collection, and it can kind of come off a little, maybe nerd, kind of almost a little pretentious, maybe we're super snobby, yeah. But when you really get into it, you realize that they do love film, and there's just so many different options for so many different types of people. People that are more kind of film nerdy, but also someone that maybe wants to see something that's older. They have stuff like that, and they even have movies every now and then that you might have heard of. And so that's it's just cool that they they don't really stick to one type of movie, even though it seems like they go all around, and it's a cool thing.
Yeah, it's like once you dig beneath like the surface of some of the the cliche Criterion stuff like Ingmar Bergman, Francois Truffaut, Akira Kurosawa, you'll find there's actually going to be quite a few mainstream releases coming out next year, which we'll talk about.
Oh, and I'm excited to talk about those ones.
Oh man, that's going to be crazy. But man, so this is going to be exciting. So I want to talk about the stuff that we picked up. So from the sale, so I'll let you go on that one. You picked up some pretty interesting ones. From what
thank you. Well, thank you. Well, there's one more I want to get. The sale's not over. It's over at the end of November, which is in a couple of weeks here.
And sometimes they extend the sale.
Sometimes they do extend the sale, which is always nice. So there's one more I want to get. It's a Terry Gilliam film called Jabberwocky, which comes out on the 21st of November, that Tuesday. So I'll definitely, when I get a second, go in to pick that one for the sale, unless it's gone, because that's what happens. It's unfortunate,
right?
Yeah, but anyway, so this I actually kind of went all out a little bit on the sale. I'm poor. I can't afford anything. I can't even afford to just sit here and talk to you.
It's too expensive.
It's too expensive. Joey, too expensive for me.
Oh, darn it.
I've been saving money, and so I decided, the heck, splurge a little bit. Plus, since I just finished a movie, I wanted to, treat myself.
There you go.
So the first movie I got from one of the October releases is Vampire. This is an old school movie. This is one movie that I guess has been in the Criterion Collection for a bit, but hasn't been on Blu-ray yet.
Yeah.
From what I've heard. Obviously I'm holding it in my hand for those of you that can't. I'm assuming you can't see.
No, you gotta work.
Hearing us.
Yeah.
But I'll just read the back to you guys. With Vampire, Danish filmmaker Carl Theodor Dreyer channeled his genius for creating mesmerizing atmosphere and austere, unsettling imagery into the horror genre. The result, a chilling film about a student of the occult who encounters supernatural haunts and local evildoers in a village outside of Paris, is nearly unclassifiable. A host of stunning camera and editing tricks and densely layered sounds create a mood of dream terror. With its rolling fogs, ominous scythes, and foreboding echoes, Vampire is one of cinema's great nightmares. And I'm a big horror fan, for those who don't. So if there's a horror movie in the Criterion Collection, I usually seek that one out. Right. And I love vampires, and so I wanted to check this out. This movie was made in 1932, so around the time of your classic Universal monster movies when they were coming out. But what's interesting about it is that while it does have some of those kind of, like, it is trying to be somewhat modern, so that there's dialogue and there's people talking, there's actually music. The movie actually feels very modern at times, especially with the camera work. You see the way the camera moves. And you don't really see that in a lot of movies from that time. So they were fairly progressive with the photography. But the movie itself also still keeps a foot in the silent film era. There's title cards for passages telling you, kind of filling in the blanks of what's going on with the main character of this story. It's a very slow-paced movie for only being 73 minutes, and it's also very it is very drawn out. It is kind of that classic atmospheric type horror movie, but it was definitely interesting, and it kept my interest, and so I'm happy to have it. And what's cool about the one of those hefty Blu-rays, actually, this isn't a typical Criterion release. This is it's like a car. It's one of their cardboard cases. Mm-hmm. It's spine number 437, which for those who don't know, Criterion has spine numbers for all their movies. It comes with various features, but one of my favorite things, every Criterion Collection movie, for those who don't know, comes with a one or a few essays from various critics or people that study film, and they talk about the movie and what it means and all that stuff. But what's cool about Vampire is that not only come with a few essays, it comes with a booklet that is the entire script.
Yeah, so I do remember hearing about that.
So we have the entire script for Vampire right here in my hands, and that's actually pretty sweet. So you can read along as you watch it. It's also got a few essays, a few things here and there. I love the box art. I think it's great. It's only one disc, but it does come with a bunch of cool stuff. So it's very old school movie. It's very atmospheric, and I dig it. The next movie I got, we like Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
we like Stanley Kubrick. He's he's definitely a director that depends on your taste, because he is a very distinct style director, and that's I feel like that's a commonality with directors who have a very distinct visual style. Some people will latch onto it, some people won't, and Stanley Kubrick has definitely made a name for himself in the movie world, and with so many movies, and Criterion's chocked full of Kubrick, chocked full.
There's quite a few really good Kubrick. Like, a lot of people think of like Clockwork Orange,
or The Shining.
The Shining. But I mean, when you think about the collection, I'll lead up into the one that I think you're referring to. They got Paths of Glory, which I think is in a lot of ways pretty underrated.
Paths of Glory, Kirk Douglas.
Yes, love Kirk Douglas.
And
there is a Criterion edition of Spartacus, but it's only DVD. It's an old, like one of those like really thick DVD cases.
Yeah.
Where it's like two separate things for like the two discs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was what Spartacus was, and I have that on my shelf.
I call that box the box that just cares too much about the discs. It's like, we need to have its own little cupboard for this one, and this one, okay, we need to keep it separate.
The complete opposite of two disc editions in the Criterion Collection.
The complete opposite. Oh man, but and also like Doctor Strangelove, classic. Doctor Strangelove,
and I also like I would like to shout out The Killing.
Yeah,
Sterling
good one.
Hayden. That's a great movie. I never heard of it, and then I picked it up and I watched it. It's an amazing movie.
So this is actually a Kubrick movie I'd never seen before, and so I wanted to check it out. And when I saw it was in the collection, I was like, yes. And the movie in question, then it's actually one of the latest additions to the Criterion Collection, is Barry Lyndon. Barry Lyndon. It is spine number 897. It's from 1975. It's 100 guys. Not even kidding. It's 185 minutes long. That's 3 hours and 5 minutes.
Wow, that's a long movie.
That is a long movie, and only so few movies have been that long and been able to keep my attention. Thankfully, this is one of them. The movie based off of a book called, I think it's called The Luck of Barry Lyndon or something like that, by William Makepeace Thackeray. Mm-hmm. And the movie is split into 2 acts with an intermission in the middle. Ergo, long-ass movie, pardon my language.
Yeah.
Ass being such the bad word that I say.
Family show.
It's such a rebel saying the word like ass on this show. But the story follows this guy named Redmond Barry, played by Ryan O'Neal, who, fun fact, the first movie I ever saw Ryan O'Neal in, you're gonna love this, Joey. The first movie I ever saw Ryan O'Neal in was Malibu's Most Wanted.
Oh, wow.
he played a senator, and he was Jamie Kennedy's dad. And I was like, dang, that's where I recognized that guy's face. Oh man! In the movie, in the first act, like it's split into 2 acts. Redmond Barry kind of goes through all these like really crappy situations, but somehow ends up finding his way of it. Mm-hmm. And the goal is that he wants to be a gentleman.
Right.
And this is set during like the early day like history of whatever, I don't know. This is set back in the day, folks.
Ye olden days.
Ye olden days, where we wore hats that looked like triangles.
Ooh.
and we had coats with tails on them.
All right.
But so like the first act of the movie, you see him kind of try to be a but literally even do it in like the honorable way. Like he tries to like do it somewhat the easy way.
Mm-hmm.
So like he gets drafted into the military at one point. He's actually a fairly good soldier, but he ends up leaving just so he could escape. He tries to escape, fails, ends up getting shanghaied into another military, escapes that one, and then eventually gets what he wants because he marries this really rich. He marries into this really rich family.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second act is how he finally becomes Barry Lyndon, as the title says, right. And how he kind of squanders the wealth and the gentleman's stance that he gave himself into, kind of leading a somewhat unfortunate life. But it's an interesting movie. It's actually quite funny at times. It's pretty dramatic. The set design is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of the buildings they got were so like absolutely outrageous and stunning, and the set design for everything was absolutely amazing. But again, it's 3 hours. It's very slow paced. So if you ever get a chance to watch this, make sure you clear your schedule.
Mm.
So that's good. And it's a 2-disc Blu-ray set, 4K restoration. Yeah, it's a 2-disc set. It actually has a more classic style booklet than some of the more recent Criterion Collections titles, which have had kind of like a poster or like a fold out of some sort. So this is definitely kind of evoking a more old school style Criterion Collection release. And the second disc has various bonus features. I haven't really looked into that, but I'm just excited that I finally got through the movie and that it was actually pretty good. So
I'm glad. That's good.
So next one I got. This is actually the newest movie I own in the Criterion Collection. This movie came out in 2015. And literally just based on the description of this movie alone was enough for me to want to check it out. It's a Polish movie called The Lure.
Yeah, I remember seeing this one like when it was announced. And I'm like, I looked at it and I'm like, it made me think of that one mermaid movie that China released that made like $500 million. Or even that one scene in Pirates of the Caribbean 4.
Oh,
let's not. No.
with the Spider-Man vampire
mermaids. Spider-Man vampire mermaids. Hopefully, there are no Spider-Man vampire mermaids in this. Are they?
Maybe. Well, I mean, kind of vampire-y, but they're not spider-y.
All right, fine.
Basically, it's a horror film, but it's also a musical. it's a Polish horror musical about mermaids set in the 80s. Literally combine all of those factors together, and you have my interest.
I remember you were telling me about this. I was like, "What the heck is this movie?"
And after I watched it, like it's so like surreal, but it's like so ambitious. The music's amazing. This like I've never actually seen like a foreign musical, so like it was unique to listen to them sing, but then to also hear them, to have to read subtitles to know exactly what they're talking about. Though they do sing some American songs, they do sing some English language songs,
right?
But it's like water compared to the bevy of, Polish songs that they end up singing for the movie.
Right.
The film itself, the story is kind of a twist on the Little Mermaid, and so it's about these two mermaids. One of them meets this boy who's like the basis of this band that they end up joining that plays at this like strip club, basically. And so she falls in love with the kid, but her sister is not very keen to it. She wants her sister to stay with her, and so they can live the rest of their life because they have plans for the future. But she's kind of digging this dude, and she goes through some crazy stuff just to be with him. And so it's a whacked out movie, my friend. But it
sounds wacky.
It's wacky. It's gory at times. It's zany. It's colorful. Like literally, I watched like the opening of it, and I sent a reaction to Joey on Facebook of like there's this part where a character screams, and instantly you just hear like, and I'm like, dang man, this is spiked up fast. I'm digging this. So it's definitely a whacked out movie. I could definitely see someone looking at this and just going like, what? But I don't know. I had a great time with it. It's just it's a little confused. It's not perfect. It's a little confusing at times, but ultimately it's pretty crazy, and I liked it.
That sounds good.
So, and then last movie I picked up, classic love story, you guys. Classic love, but so not typical. That is the great Sid and Nancy. Mm. Oh, by the way, the spy number for the lore is 896. Forgot about that. Spy number for Sid and Nancy, speaking of that, is actually 20. So assuming this was in the collection at one point?
Number 20, yeah, it was one of the older. If it's spy number 20, you said that's old.
Yeah, so this has been around. Sid and Nancy is a kind of a biopic, but it's about the relationship of Sex Pistols bassist Sid Vicious and his girlfriend Dungeon. Their wacky adventures. It's directed by Alex Cox, who also he has a few. Does he have a few movies? I know he has Repo Man.
Repo Man. You know what? I'll look that up right now as you're talking about
Sid and Nancy.
Sid and Nancy, yeah.
So, believe it or not, guys, I saw like bits and pieces of the movie a long time ago. I actually haven't did yet. It's still in its packaging. It's still in the saran wrap. But I saw it and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll buy it. I literally bought it with Barry Lyndon and The Lure, even though those movies were like the only movies I intended to buy at the time. But what happened was, I saw, screw it, I'll pick it up. I mean, it was like $60 for all of them, when typically it'd have been like $120, not being on sale. So I was like, that's a bargain either way.
All right.
So, one of the best actors of all time is in this film, Mr. Gary Oldman, playing Sid Vicious.
Very nice.
And it's a 4K restoration, a whole bunch of different special features from new ones to old ones, and I can't wait to watch it again.
And to answer your question, he also has Walker in the collection, about American adventurer William Walker, played by Ed Harris.
So, I mean, nothing better than an old vampire movie, a really long period drama, and a whacked out musical with murdering mermaids. And again, you listen to that and you know just how all over the place Criterion Collection is, and I love it.
It's just great.
But Joe Denny Dan, my good friend, what, pray tell, did you pick up this sale for Criterion?
Well, I will say the later half of this year was far kinder to me than the first half in terms of releases. A lot of the releases earlier this year, I really didn't, wasn't
jiving with.
Well, it wasn't jiving with me. So, if you know anything about me, one of my favorite things to pick up in the collection are classic Hollywood movies from the 40s, especially when I upgrade them. I mean, like when you see an old Hollywood movie restored in 4K, it's beautiful. It's
like a brand new sometimes.
It's brand spanking new. There's nice sheen on it, and it's like if you've seen the movie before and you're watching it in 4K, it's like seeing it for the first time again.
It really is.
Which is what my experience was with my first title I'll talk about, Rebecca.
Rebecca!
Getting back to Alfred Hitchcock, this was released in 1940. Hitchcock made 2 movies that year, Rebecca and another Criterion Collection film, Foreign Correspondent, which I prefer that movie. It's much more of a Hitchcock movie, but Rebecca's still good. It's produced by David O. Selznick, who produced Gone with the Wind, which was a Best Picture winner the previous year, and then this
super racist movie, but
it's a monumental filmmaking achievement.
Super racist though.
It is, but there's certain scenes and moments and like the audacity of it where you're like, that is impressive, as racist as it is.
It's like when you see an Adonis and then he starts going, "I hate Mexicans." You're like, he looks good, but dang, he should just not talk.
Yeah, but what are you gonna do? It's an older movie. It's not much you can do. But Rebecca also won Best Picture that following year. So Selznick got 2 Best Picture Oscars 2 years in a row.
That's a good deal.
This cast is pretty good. It's got Laurence Olivier as Max de Winter, Joan Fontaine as as they refer to as in the credits, or Mrs. de Winter, because she's never really given her own name in this movie. And for those of you who have never heard of Rebecca, basically the story goes like this. You have a woman who, by the way, is also in life with sisters with Olivia de Havilland. Joan Fontaine passed away a few years ago, and they were very bitter at each other, even to the end of their lives. But anyway, Joan Fontaine meets a very troubled rich guy, Max de Winter, played by Laurence Olivier, who is kind of recovering from the death of his wife, Rebecca. And what's so great about this is it's like you never see what Rebecca looks like. You hear people talk about her, and Rebecca, like you don't see like a ghost or anything. It just Rebecca haunts the whole movie without ever appearing on screen, without any ghost. There's special effects in the movie, but there's no like ghost effects or anything like that. Judith Anderson is in the movie as is her name? Judith, I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry, I'm unprepared. Judith Anderson, excuse me, as Mrs. Danvers. She is very creepy, very, very creepy in this movie. Made me think of, what's Macaulay from Young Frankenstein, Frau Bruja.
Oh, Cloris Leachman.
Yes.
I love Cloris Leachman.
So there's her in this movie. George Sanders, who played Shere Khan in the Disney Jungle Book, he appears in this movie as a sleazy, guy, Rebecca's cousin. You know.
So just like Shere Khan from Drunk. No, I'm kidding.
You know, yeah, just without the tiger print. So this was actually an older Criterion release. This was Spine number 135, and Criterion had a box set of a bunch of Hitchcock movies, which included the train movie I mentioned earlier. Was it Suspicion, or it was another one? I forget the other. I'm just drawing a blank with some of these. But Notorious was in that set, and Rebecca was. Rebecca was given a 2-disc DVD at the time, and you know a lot of the Criterion editions back then had like 1 disc. So getting 2-disc DVD is a pretty big deal. And now this one has 2-disc Blu-ray because it has a 4K restoration. And it's got some like really extensive bonus features. A lot of them ported over from the original DVD, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It's got like all sorts of like auditions for like other actresses who were supposed to play Joan Fontaine's role. 3 different radio play versions of the story, including Orson Welles playing Max de Winter in one of them.
Now I know why he bought it.
That was not the only reason, but sure.
That was the bonus. He was like, "Oh, what? Orson Welles?"
Academy Award-winning special effects artist Craig Barron talks about the visual effects in Rebecca. The movie actually was nominated for Best Visual Effects, but lost out to another one of my favorite Criterion releases, The Thief of Bagdad.
Which Criterion, if you're listening right now, if you can hear my words, if you can hear Joey's words when he says something, we have a request. If you could please, for the love of all that is frickin' holy, for Joey's sake, before he croaks in about 2 minutes, because he knows he's gonna die.
What?
If you could just release Thief of Bagdad on Blu-ray.
But anyway,
please do it.
Anyway, yeah, Criterion really.
You're welcome, Joey.
Thank you, Richard. You really got to get on that Criterion. I mean, it's on Filmstruck, that's cool, but I want a Blu-ray. I want a Blu-ray on my shelf with that beautiful cover.
Make it happen, Criterion. Make it happen.
Make it happen. So I also picked up another film that was released in 1940, The Philadelphia Story, which I had not seen in years. I actually didn't finish my rewatch of it because I was watching it with my mom. She's a huge Katharine Hepburn fan.
Who isn't?
I mean, who exactly? It's got Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart.
Cary Grant's back.
Cary Grant coming back again. I mean, again, this is another 4K restoration. This is Spy number 901 in the collection. It's also a Warner Bros. Distributed title, which up until a few years ago, it seemed titles because they seemed to be one of those companies that kind of had like a death grip on certain titles, not just certain titles, but all their titles.
But same with Barry Lyndon too. Barry Lyndon's Warner Brothers.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And Tech knows New Line Cinema, but that's owned by Warner Brothers. Pan's Labyrinth, my favorite movie in the Criterion Collection.
Yes, that
is a Warner Brothers release.
Yes, I do remember that. But
it makes me hopeful for like some bigger titles, like say, I don't know, Clockwork Orange.
Some of those have a slight. I mean, you got, what do we get? We got like Dr. Strangelove, and that's pretty big, I would say, as far as
pretty big
Kubrick goes. So, but anyway, Philadelphia Story. There's a couple new bonus features in there. Haven't checked them out quite yet, but definitely looking forward to going through that Blu-ray. As far as stuff that's in the mail for me, because my Barnes & Noble store does not sell Criterion movies. So
which is super tragic.
It's really dumb.
I mean, I guess I kind of have a similar situation. I mean, my Barnes & Noble, I have to drive. Like, for those who don't know, I live like in the Northeast Ohio area. I live about an hour away from Cleveland. I basically have to drive towards Cleveland, stop maybe like 20 minutes before, just so I can go to Barnes & Noble and buy these movies.
I remember I went to like a trip to Ohio once, and I went to their Barnes & Noble. I was able to actually go to a Barnes & Noble with Criterion stuff, so that was like, wow. But anyway.
And oddly enough, I went to that same Barnes. Like, this was a weird discussion. I ended up going to that same Barnes & Noble, possibly, that he went to, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
So
there's that, but titles I'm looking to, I ordered Les Samurai, this was a film I had a DVD edition for the longest time. It's Spine number 306. Basically, it's about this guy who has samurai instincts. I'm going to read the thing. After carrying out a follow-up, Jeff finds himself caught between persistent police investigator and a ruthless employer, and not even his armor, a fedora, and trench coat can protect him.
Jeff.
But it's like a '60s like French movie. It's and of course, like anything relating to samurais, even remotely relating to samurais, I have to pick up.
Like you hear the word samurai, Joey's like, "What?
Wait, when?"
Like you hear, like if there's samurai or cowboy or anything, he's all over that.
Yes, no, that's very true. But anyway, it was a Blu-ray that was a long time coming. The other title I'm picking up is a Francois Truffaut movie called Jules and Jim. It's kind of like, there's kind of like... The title confused me. I kept saying Jewels and Gems. I was like, oh, okay. And actually what's funny about this one is that it's actually a dual format Criterion release. It's one of the few that you could as a dual format, which means Blu-ray and DVD. So it's a 3-disc set altogether. It's a 2K Blu-ray restoration, Spine number 281, another somewhat earlier title in the collection. French New Wave is always kind of fun, so got to pick that up at some point. And then titles after that, I want to pick up Akira Kurosawa's Dreams, because that's one of the few Kurosawa movies I don't own.
Weirdo.
I know. And the other one I really want to pick up is Barry Lyndon. And after your review of it, just makes me want to pick it up even more.
Right. It's like you really have to like check it out. It's very old school in a lot of ways.
No, I'm definitely really looking forward to it. Now, I think we both talked about stuff that we wanted to get this year.
I don't know if we talked about stuff we wanted. I think stuff that's coming out this year, but I don't think we've actually talked about like.
We didn't talk about next year, is what I mean to say.
Yeah, right? Yeah. That and this guy's there's some big stuff.
But before I get to that, speaking of big stuff, you might have noticed Philadelphia Story is Spine number 901. 900 is Criterion's biggest box set yet. 100 years of the Olympics. The discounted price on the Criterion site is $319.96. Which is usual suggested price is about $400. And this is a collection of 53 movies, a couple of them even with 4K restorations.
Oh God!
I'm trying to figure out how many discs this comes out to. I'm just looking at this because the biggest
it better come out to like a buttload.
So I'm almost curious to see if they're going to extend the sale for this box set, because there's a specific title in here, Tokyo Olympiad, I believe, and that movie was in the collection and had its own spine number, but it's one of the hardest ones to find. It's out of print and very, very expensive. I've seen it for hundreds of dollars online. So now it's available in this box set along with 50 some odd other movies.
Goodness gracious, you guys.
But let's talk enough about this year. Let's talk about next year, which is getting off to a pretty exciting start.
Oh my God. Okay, so
wow.
Can I just talk about the first one at least? Because there's 3 big titles in my opinion that are coming out.
There's 3
within January, February.
There's 3 that are very big, and then there's one I just want to get because I've never seen it. But go on.
All right, so the first one I have to talk about is one of my all-time favorite movies. I didn't even think it was capable of getting it. It wasn't even a movie I thought like, oh, okay, this could totally work in the Criterion, but it does. And all I'm going to do is this, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Granted, I shouldn't do more than 20 seconds of this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So, Joey, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to pay for copyright. All right, here we go. Don't you forget about me. Don't you Forget about me. That's right, you guys.
Breakfast Club.
Frickin' Breakfast Club in the Criterion Collection comes out, not even kidding you, the second day of 2018.
Yeah, so we finally have a John Hughes movie in the collection. A really awesome 4K Blu-ray for this movie.
Like I said, there's been so many different editions of this movie because it's a classic. It's a movie that, it transcends time. While it does have that 80s feel to it, it's set in that time period. Its values and its themes and everything about it's very much, all over. Like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Point is, it's a movie that'll last forever, and you'll never forget it because, don't you forget about me. If you haven't seen it, first off, huh? What? You haven't? Why? What are you doing right now? Anyway, but Breakfast Club is about these 5 kids who get detention on Saturday. They get Saturday detention, and they all have to just be there in detention on Saturday. But the thing is, each of these kids all kind of different sort of clique in high school. So, like, for example, you have John Bender, who's the, he's the standout character, admittedly. He's like the bad boy, he's the troublemaker. And then you have, who's played by Judd Nelson. And then you have Brian, played by, the heck's his name? Why did I forget his name? Crap.
Don't forget it. Anthony Michael Hall.
Anthony Michael Hall. Yes. Anthony Michael Hall. He was in The Dark Knight. And Edward Scissorhands. Anyway. Anthony Michael Hall plays Brian. Brian's like the nerdy character. And you have Ali Sheedy, who plays... I can't remember her character's name, but she plays kind of the like the outcast character. She's very weird, but she tries to be weird. She tries to be eccentric. Then you have Molly Ringwald, who plays Claire, and Claire's the prissy, popular, like almost like feels like I'm better than everybody. I mean, kind of girl. And then you got Emilio. Good old Emilio Estevez, my favorite of the Sheen family. Sorry, Martin. But he plays crap. I forget his character name. I'm failing at this remembering. I should have is
Andrew Clark.
Andrew Clark, yes, he plays the jock in the film, and so you see these different personalities clash and how they kind of work together and how they don't work together. And it shows you that it doesn't matter how the world identifies you. It's you who identifies you, and it shouldn't matter who you're friends with or who you can socialize with. Even though you might feel like you're a part of a different social class, we're all humans and we all have feelings and desires and wants and needs. And it's a very emotional, funny, dramatic, crazy, lovable movie that everybody should see, and I'm a huge fan of it.
No, I mean, I remember in college, a lot of communication classes and film classes, I'd see this film come up time and time again, and it's definitely a film I'm going to pick up at some point next year. It's definitely going to be one of the big releases of next year. Yeah, and I have a $15 credit on Criterion website, so I'm picking that up right away. Nice. Before we get to the what's up?
Oh, okay. I was going to see if you wanted to talk about the next one.
Well,
since I did Breakfast Club.
I just want to briefly mention Young Mr. Lincoln's finally getting a Blu-ray. John Ford movie, Henry Fonda as Abraham Lincoln. Was it Spine 320? Yeah, Spine number 320. Just want to mention that. I've never seen the movie before, but I like Henry Fonda. I like John Ford. Needed to see that one. But February...
Ooh.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. All right. So wait, okay. Do you want to talk about what? Okay, hold on. How are we gonna work this? Because there's two great movies,
and they both come out on the same day.
Oh my god, we're gonna be so poor that day. Okay. We'll just do it. Okay, yeah. So this first movie is probably one of the most famous public domain movies I think ever. And it started off. It was the starting off point for the career of one of the absolute greats who who didn't he recently pass away?
Recently, he passed away. Yes.
So George Romero. And if you hear that name, the first thing you should think of is brains.
Yeah.
maybe not that specifically, but zombies.
Night of the Living Dead. I mean,
the original zombie film.
This made me think of their release of Godzilla, because they're both such influential films and famous films.
They continue, right? Like, they're still making dead movies today.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, one of our favorite directors remade one of the movies. Well, okay, maybe not mine. I like him still.
In fairness, it's not the worst movie in the world.
That's a whole other conversation. But no, the movies. The point is, the movies are so influential, and we've seen a few remakes here and there, but we've also seen new movies. And George Romero just kept going. He made sequel after sequel after sequel, and not all of them are great, but he had a continuing legacy, and he was a master of the genre, and this was his classic. This was his number one, and it's finally getting a worthwhile Blu-ray, I think.
Yeah, no, it's like, I'm just going to read, because, okay, let me just put it to you like this. It's got a 2-disc Blu-ray, and the DVD edition is 3 discs.
Jesus.
3-disc DVD. And this is for one movie. This is not like for a trilogy of movies. This is for one movie. One movie. So there's a 4K restoration of this film that was supervised by George Romero and John Russo, who is the co-screenwriter. And what else is there? Night of Anubis, which is the never-before-seen work print edit of the film. A new bonus feature featuring Frank Darabont, Guillermo del Toro, Robert Rodriguez. Never before seen 16 millimeters dailies reel. New piece featuring Russo about the commercial and industrial film production company where key Night of the Living Dead filmmakers got their start. 2 commentaries from 1994 with Romero, Russo, and some of the actors. Archival interviews with Dwayne Jones, Romero, Judith Ridley. New programs about the editing, score, and directing. Ghouls. New interviews with some guys, but more interviews. TV, radio spots, trailers, and then they put more, which means there might be another supplement or 2, and then an essay on the film.
So there you go, guys. I'm actually really excited to see that the one with Del Toro and Robert Rodriguez,
yes.
And because for those who don't know, Frank Darabont is a great director, but also he was the originator when it came to bringing the Walking Dead comic book to television. He was the original showrunner, and then obviously the show's still going on. People still love that thing. Then obviously Robert Rodriguez has made a pretty good name for himself, and oddly enough, the horror genre, with movies like From Dusk Till Dawn or Planet Terror, some of those kind of movies that almost evoked that Romero style. And then of course Guillermo del Toro's, he, you don't need to go too much into him. You should already know
quite a few times. But yeah, I'm really excited because I've only had a really crappy public domain copy on this box set. I had 50 horror classics,
and then it's like, oh, guess what? You get Night of the Living Dead, really? And this, and this.
You see, I mainly own that DVD because of House on Haunted Hill, which Criterion, you should get on that just because it would be amusing to have that in the collection.
We need more Vincent Price movies in the Criterion Collection.
They have what was it, the Mask of the Red Death?
Masquerade of the Red Death on Filmstruck.
Thinking that could be a title.
Roger Corman title needs to get on there. Let's do this.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty incredible edition, and the cover is awesome.
Oh, the covers.
And you can get it as a poster as well on Criterion's website.
Now, this next one. This one's actually a movie that was in the Criterion Collection at one point, but then they started, doing newer releases or whatever. I don't know, but
because again, it's a major studio title. And
it is.
It became out of print. And I actually do own the old DVD copy. It was Spy Number 13. Spy Number 13.
So OG Criterion title.
Like, doesn't even have the wacky Criterion C. It's like the really bland the Criterion Collection.
Right.
Really just
now,
really cheap looking.
Now the only thing I'm going to say for this one is for your hint. With this one is this. Okay. I got to look at Joey really like intensely. All right, you ready, Joey?
I guess I'm Clarice.
Yeah, you're Clarice. Spoiler alert.
Go on.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. Did that scare you?
I was a little intimidated.
Yeah, you were.
But
that's right.
Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs. One of the few films in Oscar history to win the 5 major Oscars of picture, director, actor, actress, and screenplay. There actually Criterion has one of the other ones in the collection. It happened one night. Another little known fact.
And also one of the few, technically horror, if you want to call it a horror movie, that to even get anywhere near the Academy Awards.
I think it's if you count it as a horror movie, it's the only horror movie to win Best Picture.
It's the only horror movie to probably win an Oscar in a lot of ways too.
Unless you want to count Crash as like a movie that horrified me at how bad it was, but that's another story for another day.
Why'd you have to bring that up?
Well, in any case, this is another 4K restoration. It's the commentary track with director Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins, and a bunch of other people, and former FBI agent John Douglas. New interview with the critic, a lot of deleted scenes, 35 minutes worth of deleted scenes, actually. Interview in 2008 with Jonathan Demme and Jodie Foster.
Who also passed away not that long ago.
Yes, he did. He did pass away. There's an essay
Sadly.
and a bunch of stuff in the booklet. It's just a lot of. This is a packed release as well.
Let me just tell you, the cover itself as well is stunning. Stunning. I love the cover of this Blu-ray.
It's a cool cover, and this is also a two-disc Blu-ray. I think that's also worthy of mention.
So it looks like Criterion might be bringing back the 2-disc, because Barry Lyndon was 2-disc, so they might be bringing back the 2-disc format.
Yeah, because for a while Criterion after dual format was, I want to say, like a failure. You know, they started to really slim down some of their releases. Like if you notice a couple that was it La Dolce Vita? Like you would think Federico Fellini filmed that people wanting the collection forever was only a 1-disc movie, and people were kind of disappointed with that release.
They're like, what?
It was like, what?
What is that? I'm done with you, Criterion. I'll get your next sale.
The old DVD is better.
The older one's so much better that you don't even know. You don't even know.
You can't
But no, that's super exciting to see, because I love Silence of the Lambs. I have like a $7 Blu-ray copy of it on my shelf. So it's time to replace that bad boy.
For me, it's just nice to get rid of some of the old Criterion DVDs on my shelf.
Right.
Because a lot
it's
of
just,
them...
That's...
yeah.
But hopefully you'll never have to replace that Armageddon Blu-ray.
Yeah,
the DVD.
I do own Armageddon on DVD.
Because, fun fact, you guys, like I said, there's a whole plethora of movies, and at one point Criterion was nice enough to put a Michael Bay movie into their collection.
And they have talked about that, why they put it into the collection. Have I told you about this, Richard?
No, you haven't, actually.
All right,
but for some reason, now that I'm thinking about it, I have the Aerosmith song in my head now.
And I don't want to miss a thing.
Don't want to fall asleep.
I mean, there you go. But
that's the best part. But anyways,
one of the Criterion execs, producers, he was like, we had a special opportunity at that time because it was a big popular movie. It was a movie with what's his face, Michael Bay and Jerry Bruckheimer produced. Bruckheimer produced it. All-star cast.
Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler,
and it's more of like a time capsule the way I look at it. Because I actually was listening to a Criterion episode, a Criterion Cast episode. You should check those guys out, by the way. They were talking about Armageddon in the collection, and they it was one of their episodes was Armageddon. There, and a couple of them were like, they still watch the movie. You know,
right?
There's some entertainment value to be had from that movie.
Yeah. I mean, you for every scene where Ben Affleck's running an animal cracker on Liv Tyler's stomach, there's also some explosions. So,
I mean, there you go. In any case, it does have a spine number in the collection. Actually, just out of curiosity, I'm just going to quickly look up what the spine number is.
Now that we've gotten to talk about Armageddon.
Now we got to talk about Michael Bay. Is spine number 40.
So there you go, you guys. If you ever see a future Criterion Edition Blu-ray of Armageddon, that's why.
Yeah, it's actually one of those Criterion releases where it's out of print, but it's not really out of print. Where
you can still find it.
You can still find it, but you can't buy it from their website.
No.
That's like with Life Aquatic, the DVD edition of Life Aquatic. You can't get it on Criterion's website.
Joey, you said you weren't going to mention Wes Anderson.
Actually, I did say it was going to be kept to a minimum, but this is where we're going to get to titles that we hope to see released this year. And one of the titles I want to see released this year is the Grand Budapest Hotel. It's so far the only Wes Anderson movie not in the collection.
I see.
As we said, there are directors who have it in with the collection, and nobody has it in with the collection more in terms of living directors than Wes Anderson, because to this day,
that's true. That's true, actually.
And for a lot of people, Wes Anderson was like the gateway for Criterion releases. So, and they're some of the biggest like sellers are like Wes Anderson films, so like the Royal Tenenbaums, Rushmore, titles like that. And then I remember Fantastic Mr. Fox was a major deal when that got a Blu-ray release.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's that.
But we'll escape that for a little bit, and
I'm sorry for those of you listening. I'm sorry. It's just my opinion. So if that upsets you,
Richard, for one, my channel gets so few views. I don't think anybody's going to care. And two, most of my audience they probably watch things from like the 40s or older. So
just saying, just covering my bases, just so you know.
All right, fine.
Plus, you need a bigger audience, my friends. You do.
Yeah, you know what? Fun fact: I just saw the other day. I'm only like a handful of subscribers away from 400.
There you go. So you have some people that will look at you at least.
There you go. We already know about the first 2 months of Criterion releases this year. Richard, I don't know if you really always follow like Criterion speculation too much. It's a very interesting world, just paying attention to what's on Filmstruck, paying attention to the wacky drawings. You ever see the wacky drawings?
I've seen you showed me a few of the wacky drawings, and I got some of the emails. I never put the pieces together until I find out what the movie is. Then if it's something I know, like for example, when with Breakfast Club, which they hinted at with a wacky drawing, I looked at it and I was like, "Ow!" because it was a club sandwich, but with like breakfast food in it.
Right.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Wacky Drawings, they also do one every New Year's newsletter for New Year's, and they do one for every month. They're basically little drawings that Criterion makes to hint at new titles. And a while ago, right. I feel like somebody thought that 16 Candles was going to get into the collection because there was a wacky drawing with a bunch of candles.
Were there 16 of them?
There might have been. It's been so long since I last saw the drawing, but just trying to think of like titles that I really want in the collection this year. Regardless if they're like a Blu-ray upgrade or something new coming into the collection, I really hope that Thief of Bagdad gets a Blu-ray upgrade. I mean, just please.
Criterion, listen to me. If he doesn't get his Thief of Bagdad Blu-ray Criterion edition, he will attack me.
Like you don't even have to put in new bonus features because that's a pretty good Blu-ray on its own.
So just release it.
Just release
it.
A one disc Blu-ray with all the supplements from the other release with the booklet. It's a beautiful release, by the way. It's one of my first editions that I picked up. I'll even keep my old It's one of the few of those DVDs that I'll still keep the old DVD of. Just release it.
Just release it. Just release it so that he can stop talking about it. I mean, so that he can finally have it. Oh man,
See, that's where Richard really got mad. Not me talking about Wes Anderson, me talking about Thief of Bagdad. That's what.
and I've never even seen that, so I have no quarrel with it.
As soon as Filmstruck gets on PlayStation, you ought to watch Thief of Bagdad because it's a good time.
Does he steal Baghdad?
No, but it does have Sabu in a green diaper, so there's
Is Sabu naked?
No, Richard Sabu is not naked unless you count him in his dog form because he does transform into a dog in the movie.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Well, there is that. Also, you should get that. This should be on Blu-ray because it also has a really awesome half-hour supplement about the special effects featuring the late great Ray Harryhausen.
Ray Harryhausen.
Love
Big
that
fan.
guy, and he should have. You know what? That's another title that should be in the collection is Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and I can see it happen. I mean, I already have a Blu-ray of Seventh Voyage of Sinbad from Indicator, which is a great, also company across the pond over there.
Right.
I have the whole Sinbad trilogy on Blu-ray, and they've been releasing some of his other movies on Blu-ray, but Seventh Voyage particularly because it's just a great fantasy movie, and also Sony has the rights to it, and I know Criterion and Sony, I think, are on good terms. So
Someone's got to be on good terms with Criterion.
I mean,
Or Sony, pardon me.
yeah. I mean, yeah, because I believe
Right,
Sony
okay.
helps with the transfers for Criterion or something like that with their Blu-rays. So,
Right.
yeah, that's why we have stuff like It Happened One Night in the collection because it was from Columbia, Sony. I want that. And what do you? I'll pause on what I want to talk about. What do you want to see in the collection that's plausible?
I mean, like I said, I don't really follow the speculations. I don't really know what's possible and what's not. I just, especially when it comes to this year, I mean, I'm always just excited to see what actually happens to come out. Like hearing Breakfast Club or Night of the Living Dead, stuff like that. But one of the cool things, if you go on the Criterion website, you can actually make your own Criterion page. You can make a wish list for all the movies you want to pick up, a list of all the movies you want to own. You can even make little essays talking about the movies. You can even, in your little bio, talk about your favorite movie and movies that you want to pick up. So that's something I like to do. Sometimes I like to think about what movies I do want, but I never really follow the possibilities or the speculations as to what could actually show up. For example, right now on my Criterion page, I have two titles. One of them is Ed Wood, which I'm a huge fan of. I think that it's not one of the most prolific of the films from Tim Burton, who I'm a huge fan of. For those of you that don't know, again, you already hate me because I hate Wes Anderson. Now you hate me more because I like Tim Burton. So I get it, but I like what I like. So shut up.
I mean, I was quiet before, but okay.
I mean, not you. I was talking to everybody else.
Okay.
Because I already have to listen to you. So.
Well, likewise, I have to listen to myself.
But no, I think that one would be of his filmography. I think that one would be a good addition. I think it would fit, and I think it, it's in one way it's obviously a film about films and about the director of Ed Wood. It'd be interesting to see if Ed Wood's movies actually made it in the Criterion Collection. I don't think that would ever happen.
You see,
but a Criterion release for Plan 9 from Outer Space would be almost I don't know. That'd be interesting.
It'd be amazing if Shout Factory did something like that.
That definitely seems like a Shout Factory kind of deal.
Although I will say, if they did do an Ed Wood edition for the Criterion Collection for the Tim Burton movie, I could see them putting an HD version of Plan 9 from Outer Space as one of the supplements.
I mean, they would have to. That or The Bride of the Monster or any of the other ones that are actually featured in the movie.
Maybe even both if it was a multi-disc edition. But I definitely think it probably would be one of the more plausible ones to go in the collection, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I also just think with all the people they could talk about in the movie and the way they're portrayed, Bela Lugosi, Orson Welles, that kind of stuff.
Both Martin Landau and Vincent D'Onofrio portray both of those. See, I even mentioned frickin' Ed Wood, and guess who shows up in the movie? Orson Welles.
There you go.
Even though there's no documented evidence that Ed Wood ever actually met Orson Welles, but the idea that the guy who's considered the best director meets the guy who's considered the worst director is kind of amazing.
But anyway, you were saying.
I'm also, like you mentioned earlier, Masquerade of the Red Death is in Filmstruck, and which is directed by Roger Corman and stars Vincent Price. You know, I would love to see any kind of classic style Edgar Allan Poe adaptation that Vincent Price did, or some of the more classic horror films, like you said, like House on Haunted Hill, for example. Mm-hmm. But also the movies that kind of influenced Roger Corman, you know, were the Hammer horror films,
right?
And because those movies are always afloat at all these other studios, like Warner Brothers has, like for example, Horror of Dracula, and I think they also have Curse of Frankenstein, which are like the OG, like original Hammer horror films.
Right.
Like I think that would be a cool. Like obviously they would have to buddy up with Hammer, or maybe they won't have to because they have an in with the big studios. But I think it would be cool to see something like that in the Criterion Collection, just honor like that legacy or that era of kind of 60s horror. And,
sure.
You know, that I think that would be pretty cool.
Mm.
And also, and again, this is just me. I doubt this would have ever happened because technically it's already getting a upcoming Blu-ray and a very limited release, but Suspiria, but from Dante Argento, which is a really old school like horror film. Mm. It's already getting, like I said, it's already getting like a really cool, like souped up, restored Blu-ray release from a kind of lesser known company, but from Criterion, that would be kind of interesting.
Right.
So as you can see, I have a particular taste. I like colorful horror films.
Yes.
Bloody, colorful horror films.
If I can interject some more titles, one thing I'm disappointed by is I want more Shakespeare Blu-rays in the collection. So like these would be particular Blu-ray upgrades of Laurence Olivier's Henry V and Laurence Olivier's Best Picture winning Hamlet, because they are only DVD editions in the collection right now. The only Laurence Olivier Shakespeare in the collection that's on Blu-ray is Richard III, and it looks great.
That's me.
There you go. But I just think it would be great if they had more bonus features, talked about like Shakespeare and the different adaptations, the way he adapted it, et cetera, et cetera. Also going off for Shakespeare, I think it'd be great if they got, well, because it's on Filmstruck. I don't know how deep Criterion is willing to do this, but the Filmstruck has the 4-hour Hamlet by Kenneth Branagh on there.
I was wondering when you were going to say that.
Yeah, so, you know, like the Blu-ray from Warner Brothers is like a Blu-ray book, you know, that with information on the movie. It's got a commentary track and a little featurette, but I think it could do more than that.
Right.
You know.
So, now, for those of you that do end up watching this and don't hate me, in the comment section, what are some titles you would like to see show up in the Criterion Collection? Like movies that you think would be a good fit, movies you just want to see. Let us know. What do you think?
Yes, but thank you guys so much for listening. Richard, thank you for just hopping on the fly.
Shut up. No, I'm kidding. Thank you, Joey. It's always a fun time talking to you.
Definitely check out Richard's channel, as well as eventually his film 8 Hours. Hopefully
it'll be out soon.
Hopefully soon, but check out the trailer on his channel. It's in the link in the description below. Yada, yada, yada. Check out MovieSquad. They'll probably have a Justice League review at some point in the future.
And subscribe if you liked Joey's channel. Like the video if you liked it, or don't. He doesn't really give a crap.
And also, check out my Silent Film Saturday episodes. Maybe if I see a new comment, I might be encouraged to make a new one.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Bye, guys.
Adios.